with an introduction, and it's just, and I don't know you at all. We're meeting for the first time, but I'm introducing you based on having read your book, followed you online, and also read a bit about you from different content on the internet. So when I get to the end, I would love if you fill me in if anything is wrong or if anything is, if I left anything out, and I'm sure I'm going to. So Hannah Setzer is a self-described joyful rebel. Some of the many hats she wears are homesteader, business owner, foster and adoptive parent, a community activist and organizer, a social worker, a disability rights advocate with the Disability Law Center of Virginia. Hannah is a fierce athlete, and at this point is probably best known for her Instagram page, Feeding Tube Fitness, where she shares serious and funny fitness and health content, inspiration thoughts, and the occasional dead-on rant. She regularly encourages her online following to move in whatever way makes them feel good, and offers physically and financially accessible ideas for fitness and movement. Hannah is the author of the funny, touching, and thoughtful book, I'll Pray for You, and Other Outrageous Things Said to Disabled People. Hannah, wow. Did I spot on? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that was great. You can just like follow me around and introduce me to people, because that was better than I could do.
I could send it to you. Yeah. You know what? The farther I read into your book, the more impressed I was with all the extraordinary things that you do with your life, and all the things that you're passionate about. Just so you know a little bit about me, because before this moment, you probably only knew if you looked me up on our organization's website. So I am an occupational therapist. And I work for a project center at the University of Vermont, and our center is called the Center on Disability and Community Inclusion. And so a lot of our work is centered on this idea of access and participation, regardless of skill, regardless of disability. And so I'm sure you can see why your message and your work online really spoke to me. And when you put out the call that you were looking for some places to publicize that you had written this great book, I really jumped at the opportunity. My two areas where I do the most of my work are like early childhood practice, birth to 3 or birth to 5, and then also continence. So continence care is a big part of my work. And yeah, so that's me, that's what I do. And so a lot of my questions are obviously kind of grounded in that. And, at any point during this interview, if you feel like what I'm saying or how I'm kind of framing you or your work doesn't feel authentic, totally feel free to let me know that. Totally feel free to help us realign. I do have a bunch of questions, but we'll see where our conversation goes.
Okay, sounds
awesome. So the first question that I wanted to ask you is actually about the title of your book and the concept behind your book. So the title of your book includes the words "other outrageous things that people say to disabled people." And we've heard a lot of them in my line of work. And I don't know, it might be like a sour jumping off point, but I'm wondering if you could share a couple more of the ones that just like really have either rubbed you the wrong way or kind of like shocked you for how totally not insightful they were.
So it's not always like things that people just say, sometimes it's actions. And literally, I can tell you an example that happened an hour ago. I was like, good timing. And my husband and I stopped so he could get lunch at a food truck. And we stopped and he placed his order, and the woman told him the total, and I had hash, so I pulled out hash to hand to her, and she said, "Oh, the food is for her, not for you." And he was like, no. And she was like, no, like, you don't have to pay, you don't have to pay. And he was like, no, no, like, here's the 14.50 or whatever. And she was like, no, it's for her, it's not for you. Like, she doesn't have to pay. And then my husband was like, what is happening? And I was like, she like feels sorry for me because I'm disabled and she's not charging me food because she thinks I can't order my food for myself and then you have to order. And he was like, no, right? And I was like, yes, dude, like, that is what's happening. And so like, we left her tip that we took the free food. Like, if that's a choice that you want to make and an assumption that you want to make, like, who am I to stop you? Like, and then I'll take the food. So that just happened today.
Yeah.
So my husband and I own a business. We sell physical on-demand products. And one time I was at a farmer's market selling them. Like, I was just by myself behind the table. And a guy came up to me and said, who told you had to be here? And I said, what? And he was like, is somebody paying you to be here? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, that's not right. Somebody should be paying you. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I'm just at a market. Like, other people are selling stuff too. And he like handed me $20 and he was like, it's not right that you have to wait for somebody else and not get paid. Like, I hate how people treat disabled people. And I was like, okay. And I think he thought I was like somebody's like puppet that was like sitting at this table and they like went out doing something. And so I took his $20 and I was like, thanks, dude. And I was like, I own this business. Like, I'm the business owner. Like, this is my product I'm selling. And I think he just like could not imagine a possibility that a disabled person would own a business, like be out selling stuff without being forced to by some other person. I don't know. So yeah, people, I mean, are just like wild. Like that, like, and I had the wedding one on, like the woman today, like I had tattoos, like I don't know, like my face looks how it looks, that I wasn't like, I'm the one that had the nutty. Like, I told out the nutty today, and the lady was still like, oh, like, the food's to her, like, it's free. And I was like, what did I do? Like, that's on you.
It's so interesting. I mean, like, how, you know, I'm sure that you've heard this term of kind of like visible versus invisible disabilities, and how many people with invisible disabilities are treated incredibly poorly in society because people may not realize that they need certain accommodations, right? And in some ways, it's like, I hear from you that you have the opposite thing going on in your life, where people see that you have, this disability, that you have this facial difference, they see your trach, whatever it is, and they make all kinds of assumptions about you, which on the one hand, they don't even if you did require certain accommodations, like, they're not doing it in a way that's respectful or personal to you, that's just demeaning you as a person, right? Yeah, it's so, I mean, it's so interesting, just so many of the stories that you told in your book, you know, it's like, it was so clear to me, like, the resilience that you have developed. And resilience doesn't just mean being super tough, right? Like, sometimes it means being super vulnerable, just to say, like, this sucks and I don't owe you an explanation. You know, like, I was thinking, near the beginning of your book, you you wrote about, like, all the people who tell you they're going to pray for you, and how often you hear that. And I was reading this book last summer that I absolutely loved. The name of the book was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but
Uh-huh.
it's a great book, and it's written by a therapist, and she talks about how like she was getting sick, and how so much of the phobia about getting sick is that it puts you in touch with your own mortality. It puts you in touch with this idea that like anything could happen to anyone at any time, right? Like I could get in a car crash this afternoon that would change the course of my life. I could have a baby who had, you know, a significant disability or some other need, and um I'm trying to wrap my head around what I'm trying to say. It's like that people will tell you that, you know, they're going to pray for you, kind of as if, number one, that you're not praying hard enough for yourself, and that's why you're like this, and also like that you don't care enough, or that like this is the thing that you need to care about, and the thing that you need to be healed from. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, if you could speak to that at all. What?
Yeah, I think it's just a big assumption that people have when they see somebody who's different, to assume that different is negative, or different means they have to be fixed so that they
Yeah.
look the same as everyone else does. And so in the book, I talk about like a woman who came up to me at a church that I was visiting and didn't introduce herself, didn't like, I didn't know anyone in the church. This is my first time visiting this church. And she came up and put her hands on my head and started praying for me and speaking in tongues. And I was so uncomfortable and like pushed her hands off me and walked away. And it just, yeah, it's just crazy the audacity that people have to assume that they know what I need in my life or what should happen in my life without even knowing my name
Right.
or a single thing about me. And and yeah, it's just very like bold and brazen of people to make those assumptions and to think like literally just based on how my face looks that they should know the trajectory of my life without knowing anything about me.
Yeah.
Or assuming that, like you said, like that I don't care or that I'm like not doing enough to like be fixed and be healed or whatever.
Yeah.
But when they don't know the medical history, that I've, you know, like had 60 surgeries in my life and
Yeah.
I'm 32 and like a lot of things have been tried. And like
Yeah.
I think this is the best it is going to get, and that is okay.
Totally. Yeah. And also that like if you're healthy and you like your life, right? And healthy is defined by the person who's living that life and in that body, and you like who you are, that it's really up to you how you choose to, you know, what you do or do not choose to pursue, right? Like I think that's such it is just so interesting how many people really like equate appearance with whether or not you've done the right things and make the right choices.
Yeah. And then certainly that goes beyond disability, that goes into like weight and
Yeah.
fitness and like just runs the gamut as people, society still
Yeah.
thinking that like thin, light is like the way to be, and that is the like superior, and like that's the goal that you should be striving for. When it's like
Totally.
there's literally billions of people on Earth and nobody looks the same, and it's beautiful that we're all so different. And I don't know why it's so hard to celebrate that, because it certainly should be. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Uh, I wanted to talk to you about the uh, the chapter where you talk about not being an inspiration. And I actually, and now I'm going to have my like Terry Gross moment, and I'm going to actually, if you don't mind, read it because I just love, I love what you wrote, and so I'm gonna read for a moment. You said, "I'm not inspirational. If I had $1 for every time I was told I was inspirational, I would be sending all my friends to space in our own rockets because I'd be so rich." The world loves to label people with disabilities and medical conditions as inspirational. Living my life with surgeries and medical devices does not make me inspirational. Simply existing as a person in a world and society that doesn't understand me and doesn't accept me isn't inspirational. I think we've twisted the meaning of inspirational. It's become something that drips of pity and sadness, and sometimes relief that our lives aren't as sad as others. Look at that person, they're so inspirational. But if you actually look at their lives, chances are they aren't doing anything inspirational. And then you go on to talk about your own life and also, friends of yours who have disabilities who are, called inspirational just for existing. And I'm assuming you've heard the term inspiration porn, right? And that this is like something that, because I work with kids who are often born or very, very early on, there's something identified that, either there's a medical crisis or a pretty clear indicator that developmentally this child's going to need a lot more care and support. Their families are often sort of processing and even grieving the fact that their life with their child and that their child's life isn't going to be what they expected. And a lot of times our work and our team's work is to like remind families and their local providers, because we're consultants, that like this is a real whole person right in front of you, regardless of what they are capable of, how they're capable of communicating with you. And I think the flip side of this coin is to like feel inspired, like you were saying, by like the very existence of people with disabilities, buying toilet paper, getting on a bus. And so this question for you is like, what would you like folks to know about your experience of being told that you're an inspiration while doing everyday things? Or
And I mean, it's like just ridiculous. Like I said in the book, like I think people often use it in like earnest and kind ways. That I think it always is tinged with a bit of like, ooh, I'm glad that's not me.
yeah.
Like that has to be so hard. And to be very honest, like I catch myself sometimes saying that too. Like if I'm watching a video on Instagram of a disabled athlete or something, or somebody doing something really impressive, I often am like, dang, like she's inspirational, but I have to say, hey, like, why do I think that? Is it because she is doing this crazy athletic thing that I can't do, and that is inspiring me to strive harder to be able to do that particular exercise and particular movement? So I think you just have to think why you are saying things, and I have to do too, certainly. Like I said in the book, like my friend is in a wheelchair and she gets told at the grocery store, like, you're so inspirational. And she's like, I'm literally just like shopping for toothpaste. Like, there's nothing inspirational about this.
Right.
And that I don't mind being inspirational if it inspires you to do something. Like if there's an action or a change in thought behind it. Like, if I inspire you to like change your thinking about how disabled people is, like, cool, like I'm happy to inspire you to do that. If I inspire you to go outside on a walk every day, like I'm happy about that too.
Yeah.
If I inspire you to sign up to be a foster parent in your town, amazing. Like, kids need homes, so like, great job. But if I'm simply being told you're so inspirational and there's no like because behind it, like I want to be inspirational because XYZ, and that reason cannot be simply existing. It has to be because of something I'm doing, and in turn that has to make you want to and hopefully take action upon changing something in your own life too.
Yeah. I wonder, like, if I troll my own thoughts, I find you to be incredibly inspirational, and I find you to be incredibly inspirational. The farther I read into your book, and I was like, she does that too. She does that. Holy cow! Just that you like. From the beginning of your book, you make it so clear that you're like, if I believe in something and I care about something, I'm going to go get it done, and I'm going to be a part of it. And I find that so inspirational. And I wonder if like a lot of the message under people just labeling people as inspirational for existing is like, oh, it's hard for you to exist, right? Like it takes more effort for you to be here, and you do extra things like, wow, and I think I think it might be like a statement about how each of us sees ourselves as not capable. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, if my life were hard, then, then like how many parents with children with special needs that I work with are like, I'm so tired of other parents telling me I couldn't do what you do. It's like, of course you would do what I do. You know what I mean? Like, it's your kid, you take care of them. And it doesn't make me inspirational. It probably just makes me more tired. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just out here trying to be me.
Yeah, I hear that a lot in two avenues of my life. One, as a foster parent, people would be like, I could never do that. Like, you are so amazing. And I'm like, but like I am nothing special. Like I just know the overwhelming statistics of how many kids need homes, and like I had a home. Like that, literally, that is like how easy the deciding factor was for my husband and I to start the process. Was like, is there kids in our town that need places to be? Like a safe place to land? Yes. Okay. Like sign me up. That I also hit all the time on Instagram when I post fitness like related things, and people will be like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm not disabled and I shouldn't do that." And I'm like, you probably could, you just don't want to put in the effort, and I am choosing to put in the effort. So maybe that's inspirational, maybe it's not. But I don't think every choice we make has to have inspiration attached to it. Like there's literally just like determination and hard work that people can choose to do. Like that's I pay to join the gym. Like I budget my time in my day to go to that gym. Like that's a choice that I make, not having anything to do with my disability, but just as a person that like you can make those choices in your day too. And like, so it doesn't all have to tie back to disability. But I think when people are disabled, it always does come back to that, because people want to attach what you're doing to the fact that you have a disability.
Yeah, that's something I was wondering about as I was reading through your book, and actually kind of aligns perfectly with my next question, which is about your Instagram presence and your fitness, your Feeding Tube Fitness account. I got a big kick out of you saying that you started your account because you wanted free leggings. You're totally right. And I get that for sure. And you also talk later in the book about, your dawning awareness over time of, and this is a quote, how inaccessible fitness is to the disability community. And I'm wondering, like, did the fact of having a visible disability impact your decision to build a social media platform in any way, like either for or against, or was it really just a fact that it was there?
Yeah, I certainly think just the fact that it was there. I had a New Year's resolution in 2018 to lose my daddy for 30 days straight. And then 30 days turned into 50 into 100. And literally my real life friends were like, we're tired of you talking about this. Like, can you like make a fitness Instagram and like talk to other people? And so I did, like with no real intentions. As like I just didn't know that the fitness community was so big. And I had done several half marathons and played like in little sports in college that had never been in like the fitness world like I am now. And so I just didn't know and how good it was and how not diversified it was. And so I had learned a lot from building this community that I never anticipated. And honestly, it was 4.5 years into my journey of movement before I ever stepped foot inside a gym. Like, I was just doing everything at home by myself. And so I didn't really know what it was like to be out in a community of people at a gym. And in June of 2020, I got invited to go to the CrossFit gym in my town, and I was terrified because I was like, CrossFit, like, I can never do that.
Yeah.
And clearly, like, not one single moment that I had been in that gym, and not every day, but many times a week since June, had I felt out of place, like not wanted, like not accepted, like literally from the minute I walked in the door, it's like that community has been so kind and so welcoming and truly so inclusive. Like Sundays my Feeding Tube will just not be happy and hurt really bad, and I'll go and be like, Coach, like I can't do half the things today. And then they're like, all right, like, let's do this. Like, without Gavin and I, without feeling annoyed, like, just so, like, okay, like, this is what Hannah's doing today. Like, whatever. And, like, right now, there's a worldwide CrossFit competition happening. It was last Friday, this won't make sense when it comes out. It's over 3 Fridays.
Yeah.
And like I'm going this afternoon, and one of the things that you have to do involves a barbell and on your shoulders, which I don't do because of my trait. And I just do dumbbells instead. And it's like, okay, like, what is it? Like, nobody cares. Like, I'm in there working hard, everyone else is working hard. And I feel so supported, which honestly I did not know that you could feel in a gym, just because I had never done a Titan one. So I'm grateful to have the gym I have, and just to know that like there are spaces in the fitness world where people are being celebrated and accepted and not assign things if they have to, that like not in a way that makes them feel inadequate or less than. Like, no, we are going to celebrate you and what you can do, and if this is what you can do, awesome, let's do it.
Yeah. There are so many things about what you said that were really that are really like lovely and really encouraging to hear, I think, especially for people who are, you know, feeling a little more hesitant about like getting into being part of like a fitness community. And I also just want to say that one of the first things that you said was basically that you kind of forged this on your own for years, and that in and of itself is the part I find the most impressive, because if I'm not following a class, I'm gonna go sit down. That's my vibe these days. I was thinking, like, one of the things that I really love about your Instagram account, one of the things I come back to again and again, is that, you know, you regularly celebrate your wins, like, you know, a taller box jump or a heavier weight for a certain exercise. And then also I love that you guys do these like really funny and enjoyable stunts, either with your husband Brandon or your gym friends. Like, they're just so fun. Like, they just, most of them like end hysterically, and I love that. I love that. And I love that you're not like waiting until it's perfect, you know. Yeah, it's just like, what's perfect? And I do wonder, and maybe if this is redundant, you can just like pass, but like, is there a specific message that you want your online presence to show the world? Or
I think, and I talked about this in the book too, like, I do not think that I am like the most fit person in the world, the strongest, the fastest, the most beautiful, the most like well spoken. I don't think any of those things about myself, but I am willing to put myself out there in the world in hopes that society at large can see a disabled person doing all the insane things that I do, because I, growing up, I didn't ever see like representation of anyone that looked like me, certainly, but these were not disabled people as a whole. And in the media, you know, like books, movies, TV, anything, magazines. So if I can go first, I'm happy to. Again, not because I think I'm the best and I should be out there as like the poster child and disabled anything.
Sure.
But if I can do like a gateway to another disabled person saying, "Oh my gosh, like I can try this," or like,
yeah,
I always wanted to pursue fashion and pursue modeling or whatever. And they see the video that I had of me like walking on the runway. Again, not because I'm like A+ runway model, because I'm not. But those dreams are dreams that other people dream. Even
yeah,
if they're not my dreams, that if I can be like the entry point
yeah,
to somebody saying, "Oh my gosh, like I can do these things," because I never saw that as a kid growing up. Like, I am happy to go first. I am happy to like be out in the world, doing these things, having them on social media, even if I am like failing. But you know, like people on Instagram, like if I post anything at the gym, I always get comments of like, "You're doing it wrong," and blah blah blah. Like, who does a like,
yeah,
I'm out here doing it,
yeah,
and hopefully that will give somebody else the confidence and the encouragement to do the thing that they want to do too.
yeah. I think that's super thoughtful, and it actually, I feel like we're just just like gliding like butter through these questions that I have here, because because my next question was kind of about, you know, you talk about like how kind of exhausting it can be to put yourself in the spotlight. And I hear you saying, you know, that that like the people who you're really wanting to touch are not all the people who want you to be an ambassador for to the like non-disabled world, but it's really like helping other people who have disabilities out there to see that there's a community out there that they can feel connected to.
Yeah, I think it's really important and really beautiful to have visibility and representation. And I talk, I use the example a lot in the recent with the new Little Mermaid movie that's coming out that has a Black woman playing Ariel. And there's all these like reaction videos and all these little Black girls seeing Ariel for the first time, and they'd be like, "Not like she's like me." And I mean, I like just sad every time I see those videos. But it's just so important, and I just think about all the like little disabled girls and boys who are just longing for the day that they can feel included and see themselves like as a Disney princess at Aladdin, you know, like I just think community is so important. And growing up, I just didn't have that. But honestly, it wasn't until college that I had my first disabled friend. And she is one of my best friends. And I grew up, my parents not using the term disabled. They would just be like, oh, Hannah has a medical condition. And this friend from college has cerebral palsy, and she grew up, her parents saying, you had a disability, you're disabled. And we had a lot of like come to Jesus talk. So she was like, hey, like, you're disabled. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. And she'd be like, yes, like, you literally are. And like, because she was my best friend, and it was like, it's okay that we had these conversations. And it just like that process for me of accepting this identity and has truly just opened up this whole community that I didn't know I was missing and didn't know that I needed until I found it. And it just, it's like so beautiful, and I'm so appreciative that the story I told in the beginning about the lady at the food truck today, I posted on Instagram, and I like instantly sent it to all of my disabled friends, and I was like, tell me this hasn't happened to you, because I know it has. And there's just something about feeling known and seen and like laughing about these ridiculous things with other disabled people that is like unmatched in the world. Like my husband is amazing and so kind and patient, but he's not disabled. And so like and then today I had to like tell him what was happening at the food truck. When like I texted my disabled friends, and they're like, oh yeah.
They got it right away. Totally. They knew. And it's, I mean, that is really such a story of kind of like, you know, the sort of social media and the media sphere being like a force for good, that you talk about all the people that you managed to connect with through that. I wanted to read one more thing that you wrote. And it's after you talk about some experiences that you had as a kid. You talked about going to the zoo and the child there sort of singling you out and bullying you. And then you said, these days, kids can get picked on by millions of people all across the world at the tap of a finger. We speak out against all these horrors, but we give life to more and more pathways to have access to people. There's more representation now than ever, but it still comes at the cost of hurt people behind screens. A new kind of exhaustion sets in when you allow yourself to be public and thousands of people are entering your home and saying whatever they want to via a 4-inch iPhone screen. That just like, oh man, my heart just really like went out to you when I read that. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to speak from your experience now being very much in the spotlight and in a very public identity. What communities of allies can do to make virtual spaces safer and more supportive for people like you who are really putting yourselves out there?
Definitely listening to us when we speak and respecting the words that we use. And my best friend Ashley that I was just talking about with cerebral palsy, she has a big account as well on Instagram, and she'll refer to herself as a disabled woman, and I do the same on my account. And every time we get hundreds of comments saying like, you're not disabled, like don't talk about yourself that way, like you're just different, or like you're special or whatever. And it's like, no, like I can talk about myself how I want to talk, about myself. And disabled is not a bad word. It's like if I'm out here in the world calling myself a disabled woman, then you need to listen to that and respect that and use that terminology. Like, I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable because society has not always used that term in a positive way. And that we are the experts on ourselves, and that goes to everyone. Like, you are the expert on you, I'm not. So if you said, this is what I want you to call me, this is how I want to be talked about, okay, like, I respect that. So I think it's really just as simple as that. Like, when disabled people are talking, like, listen and respect what they say, and don't try to tell us that you know differently or that you know better than we do. And I think that's just a common courtesy that society in general is missing these days, like respecting people and who they are and what they want out of their lives. And so definitely applies to disabled people, but I would say society as a whole.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really, really well said. It's your point about like how the word disabled was right. It was really considered to be sort of a dirty word for such a long time, and for people, for people with disabilities to reclaim that word and say like, no, it's not a bad word, and it can describe me, and that's okay. I think I think it goes back to this idea that people are afraid, right? Often afraid of like, oh my gosh, what if that were me? I wouldn't want someone to call me disabled, so.
Then I have friends in wheelchairs that refer to themselves as crippled, and like that. I think a lot of disabled people are like reclaiming this vocabulary and this terminology, and like I said, it might make you uncomfortable, but I think it's something that we just have to be okay with and accept and respect. And I think that goes to other like minorities too. Like, it's not just a thing that disabled people are reclaiming terminology. I think that is happening in a lot of different groups these days, and like, I'll talk to older to like older generations and say disabled person, and they'll say, "Oh no, you're a person with a disability," and I'm like,
Right.
no, like it's okay, dude. Like disabled person's one less word to say. Like it's literally just easier. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have a bad connotation. And they'll be like, no, that person-first language is
Right.
better because you know, a person. I'm like, yeah, I'm a disabled person. It's the same. Like, I'm
Yep.
still a person either way. I'm just trying to say the word.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's absolutely spot on. I had another question that was kind of about like the media representation of you and media representation of disability. And when I was preparing for this interview, I read your book, and I also searched online to find, you know, information that maybe you hadn't posted about, or kind of details about more things about you. And what I found really difficult was to find information about you and your work. And I don't know if you have a sense of what I'm about to say, but every single headline, with no shade thrown to anybody, every single headline references your disability in a degree of detail that seems wholly unnecessary, right? Like one headline was like, "Woman who can't smile becomes disability rights advocate." Another one was, "Woman can't close her eyes or shut her mouth after doctor blunder." And it was like, which, if I'm reading correctly, that happened when you were an infant, right? And it's an article about your fitness and activism work as an adult. And I was like, what would it be like for me? Like, woman who got stung by an entire beehive gets a job someday, you know, like, and I just, I'm wondering, like, if you have thoughts about like just the representation of your disability and like publicity of you or your work.
So I will be honest, some of that is on me because I had no idea how to talk to the media when things like I went viral, I would say within like 6 months of starting that Instagram account, and just had no concept of like, hey, you shouldn't say everything to a journalist because they will use everything you say, probably
Yeah.
against you. Um, so I just didn't know, and like just didn't understand like what the headlines and what the
Yeah.
articles like that. So I am much more aware now, and also like let people send me the headline ahead of time and like
Yeah.
send me the article ahead of time so I can say,
Yeah.
no, this is not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of just like a live and learn, like holy crap, the
Yeah.
media is crazy. Especially like I went down the first time in like the UK. I wasn't even down here in the US. And I guess in the UK they had a lot more like the Daily Mail and just like
Uh,
kind of trashier like sites like that. They're just like
right.
story after story after story, and like
Right.
just
Like
things to,
tabloid press,
yeah,
basically.
just
Yeah.
things to put on. So that was the first time I went viral, and I mean it was just like, so I had no idea what I was getting into. So definitely had learned along the way how to say things much more diplomatically. Um, the yeah, the media is crazy.
Totally. Period. Case closed, right? Yeah. Right. I mean, you're so right that, like, you know, I think part of it was like, you know, when I read your book and I see all of the extraordinary work you're doing, right? And your tagline in your book, which says like, my disability is the least interesting thing about me. And it's so interesting still how like just all this media representation focuses so much on your disability, you know. And I was just it was so interesting how I was like, I couldn't even find anywhere that it referenced that you're a social worker, for example, or like, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. Like, so it was just really, it really stood out to me. I want to ask about your accessible park, accessible playground project. You and your husband, Brandon, have been working on trying to create an accessible playground in your town. Can you share any more about what or who inspired that? Who was the inspiration, to use that dirty word again? And like what you're hoping to bring to your community with that playground?
Yes. One thing about me is if I had an idea, I have to make it happen, sometimes to my detriment. I was like talking with my husband and Brandon last night, and my husband was like, you know, like the difference between you and other people is you dream big dreams that you are willing to put the work in to make them happen. And not everyone's like that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also exhausting.
Yeah.
So Bernie and I was in a small town, and at the time that we had this idea in 2021, there was no like local coffee shop here. There's just like McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts. And you know, like coffee shops are like places of community and can go and work and meet people and hang out. And so we were like, oh, like, let's start a coffee shop. Not that we know anything about starting a coffee shop, but we had the idea and who knows. And some of my friends are like, oh, it would be so nice if you had accessible playground that the kids can play at when the moms or dads are hanging out, having coffee. And we said, oh my gosh, like, yeah, that's a, like, why did we not think about that? And then, to be very honest, things like went crazy from there because we were like, our town also doesn't have a laundromat. We should also start a laundromat. Again, not that we know anything about having a laundromat. And somewhere along the way, like a consignment shop that added on. So we like essentially just like had this like vision of I don't know, like a strip mall, I guess. I don't know why.
A whole town center.
But yeah, we're like trying to take over our town. And so we were talking to other people, looking at buildings, blah blah blah. Just like insane. And we were like, one day, yeah, we were just like, what are we doing? Like, we don't know how to do any of these things. And Brandon was like, well, what if we just focused on the playground? And I said, oh yeah, like that sounds like a good idea. And so we were like, okay, like let's build an accessible playground here in our town. Because the closest one to us is about an hour away, and on the other side of the city. And then there's a few others in Virginia, but not anywhere close to us, really. And so we like started the paperwork to become a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is called Growing Inclusivity. And we looked honestly for a year for a piece of property that we could do this on, and we put offers in on property, got denied a lot of times, and then finally like had a pretty happenstance meeting with the owner of the golf course, and he was like, I have land, like put it here. And we were like, what? Like, what are you saying? Like after a whole year and like roller coaster, looking at property, getting denied, fundraising the money, and he was like, yeah, like let's do it. And so we like signed contracts and partnered with a local golf course, Independence Golf Course here in Palatine. And he was like, here you go, like do it anymore. And he just like totally hopped the vision and like cares about the community, and I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm in. And yes, I still had no idea how it's going to happen because it's like a $2 million project.
Yeah.
And we had like $100,000. So if you want to donate, you can do so on our website.
Well, I was going to ask you, yeah, how do people donate? I'm assuming you're still fundraising, so how could people donate?
Yes, I can email it to you so you can put it like in the show notes. That it's just
Awesome.
our name, just growinginclusivity.com, and there's a big
Cool.
thing that says donate.
Nice.
Yes, so I had no idea, like, if it will happen, when it will happen.
Yeah.
But my husband Brandon is like so much more like reasonable and rational than I am. Like, I had an idea, and I'm like, okay, like 2 hours later, I'll be like, why hasn't it happened yet? Like, whatever. And Brandon would be like, hey, like, this is literally like a 5 to 10 year project, and then it hasn't happened in like 5 minutes.
Right.
So he calms me down because I like will work myself up. And so now I'm just like, it'll happen someday, somehow. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be great when it does happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see.
That is awesome. That sounds like a really wonderful project. It's so cool that you found a landowner and business owner that was excited about kind of bringing you on board too. That's so cool. Well, we have been talking for quite a while, and I want to let you get on with your day. I know you have a CrossFit competition to get to. I have one more question for you that is really near and dear to the work that I do every day, working with the teams and families of children, usually, like I said, really young children with disabilities. Do you have any? I almost don't like this question because I don't assume you to be the message for all people or anything like that. But do you personally have any message from your experience for the children and parents that are living that experience of diagnoses and disabilities and difficult medical procedures and things like that? And any words of support or thought for them?
I think it's hard because I don't have a kid with a disability. I have 4 kids who are all over the place with like ADHD, but they don't have like medical conditions, which is what that's all I had known. Obviously, is medical conditions and surgeries and things like that. And that was not to minimize anyone with ADHD. Like, they are wild, and it's exciting around here all the time. But I think people that have kids these days that are born with all kinds of conditions are so honestly lucky to be born at this time, because there's just so many chances to connect with other people via social media. Like, I was born in 1990, and my parents didn't have the internet. They couldn't Google medical terms. They couldn't Google what happens after this surgery. Like, it was really just my doctors and my parents hoping things went well, with their expertise and with what they had, they were all making the best decisions that they could at the time, and I'm really grateful because I'm still here. And I just think if my parents had a community of people that all over the world that they could learn from and share wisdom with and teach things to, I just think that's a game changer. And so I know sometimes you can get like too in the weeds on the internet and things are like too scary on that side of things. So you have to be a person that has boundaries. That's on you. So yeah, I just think there's so many ways to learn things and to get connected, and my friend had a baby recently that had a very rare medical condition, and she was able to get connected like with people within our own city, which like before the internet and before like technology, she could have lived in the same city and not ever known that there was people 20 miles away that she can talk to and relate to. And so I think that's really special and really important, because just like I talked about finding the disability community for myself, it was probably just as important for my parents to growing up as well. And on the flip side of that, like if you are a parent of a disabled kid, like find then places to be with other disabled kids, because I wasn't growing up.
Yeah.
Not because my parents didn't want to, it just that just didn't happen. Or like if it did, they didn't know about it, you know. And or like my parents were in a support group that it met like once a year. So it's like once a year I saw other kids on the East Coast that not kind of had been like me, in a sense that it wasn't like an all day every day thing, which is kind of why Brandon and I hope to build this playground as a place that disabled kids and non-disabled kids can be together and learn and play and just interact. Like I don't want my kids who aren't disabled to not ever see another disabled person either, like besides me. And so I just want people in general to have community and have like a sense of belonging in all spaces, and not just like in their special needs classroom at school and then they don't have anything else all day every day.
Yeah, thank you. That's really, once again, I'll just say that's really well put. Hannah, I just want to thank you so very, very much for taking the time to meet with you, taking the time to create the presence that you have online for, you know, for all of the people out there who benefit from your humor and your insight and your presence. And I just, really want to thank you. And again, I'm just going to hold your book up for everyone out there. I'll pray for you and other outrageous things said to disabled people. We didn't even talk about your amazing animals. That's like a whole other, conversation. But they're represented in your book. I also grew up with a pig, a not mini pig, so we could talk about that. So, and I hope you have a really wonderful afternoon. And please send me the information about the playground, and we will disseminate that along with the information about your book.
This has been so fun, and I really do think you like have described me better than I can describe myself. So I need you to like write all my biographies for me.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff to say, so I appreciate that you feel like I did you some justice today. Thank you so very much. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.